The fleet had been traveling for 2 days. Inside the ships, life continued under crushing gravity. Crew members moved carefully, their bodies straining against the constant 3G acceleration. They worked in shifts because no one could handle the pressure for more than 6 hours at a time. On the observation deck of a council monitoring station, an alien observer named Theron watched the human fleet pass by. His species, the Melos, were considered one of the strongest in the council, but even they could not survive the acceleration the humans maintained. Theron activated his communication device. Council Command, this is Observer Theron. The human fleet just passed my station. They are traveling at speeds that should be impossible for any biological crew. Confirmed, came the reply. We are tracking them. How are they surviving this? Theron looked at the sensor data. I do not know. Our medical scans show their heart rates are elevated and their bodies are under severe stress. But they are not just surviving. They are functioning normally. Running drills. Training exercises. It is as if this level of discomfort is acceptable to them. In the fighter bay of the carrier ship, Vengeful, Lieutenant Minji Kang strapped into her cockpit. Her strike craft was called Reaper 7, a name she had earned through countless successful missions. Today, she would push it to its limits. Reaper 7, you are cleared for training exercise, the control tower said. Minji fired her engines and shot out of the bay. Space opened up around her. She checked her instruments and then pushed the throttle forward. The acceleration hit her like a hammer. 6 Gs. 7, 8, 9. Her vision narrowed. Blood rushed away from her brain. Her G-suit squeezed her legs and abdomen, forcing blood back up to her head. She grunted against the pressure and kept the throttle down. 9.5 Gs. Back on the carrier, Observer Theron watched his instruments in horror. What is she doing? No pilot can survive that kind of acceleration. Human pilots can, said Captain Jiwoo, who stood next to him. Lieutenant Kang is one of our best. She has flown combat missions at 10 Gs. That is impossible, Theron said. The G-forces would cause brain damage, organ failure, death. For your species, yes, Jiwoo said. But humans evolved differently. Our world has strong gravity, dangerous predators, constant threats. Our bodies adapted. We can take punishment that would kill most species. Minji completed her exercise and returned to the carrier. When she climbed out of her cockpit, she was smiling. Observer Theron stared at her like she was some kind of monster. In the engineering section, Chief Dong-hyun Bae worked on the main engines. They were running hot, pushed far beyond their design limits. Alarms beeped constantly, warning of overheating and stress fractures. Dong-hyun ignored them. Sir, the engines cannot take much more of this, his assistant said. They will take what we give them, Dong-hyun said. We can rebuild engines. We cannot bring back dead Valrine. He wiped sweat from his face and adjusted the coolant flow. The engines screamed, but held together. Dong-hyun had been an engineer for 15 years. He knew every bolt and wire in these machines. He would keep them running through sheer determination if he had to. In the command center, Admiral Jin-ho Kim received updated intelligence reports. Dr. Hyejin Choi analyzed the data and shook her head. The Krethik are not just pirates, she said. They run a massive slave operation. They capture species from low-tech worlds and sell them to labor colonies. The Valrine are perfect targets. Peaceful, weak, no ability to fight back. Jin-ho looked at images of the Valrine. They were small creatures with large eyes and thin limbs. Their bones were hollow to accommodate their low-gravity evolution. A human child could probably break one in half without trying. How many Valrine were on Talvos Prime? He asked. 900,000, Hyejin said quietly. Before the attack. Jin-ho felt sick. 900,000 innocent beings, helpless against a predator species. He thought about Earth's history. Humans knew what it was like to be prey. They had fought their way to the top of their world's food chain through blood and determination. They had survived because they refused to give up. The Valrine had never needed to fight. Their world had no large predators, no major wars. They had evolved to cooperate, not to kill. It made them beautiful and peaceful. It also made them defenseless. 4 days, Jinho said to himself. We will be there in 4 days. Captain Jiwoo called a meeting of her senior officers. They gathered in the briefing room, tired but focused. Intelligence suggests the Krethik have 70 to 80 ships in the Talvo system, Jiwoo said. We have 47. We will be outnumbered. Good, said Commander Young-jae with a cold smile. Fair fights are for sports. War is about winning. Jiwoo nodded. Our advantage is speed and aggression. Krethik tactics rely on intimidation and overwhelming numbers. They expect their enemies to retreat or negotiate. We will do neither. She pulled up tactical displays. We will hit them with everything we have in the first 30 seconds. Kinetic missiles, railgun barrages, nuclear torpedoes. We will not give them time to react or regroup. Observer Theron, who was listening to the briefing, raised one of his 6 hands. Nuclear weapons are banned by council law. They are considered too cruel for modern warfare. We are not the council, Jiwoo said, and the Krethik deserve no mercy. Theron sat back shocked. He was beginning to understand something about humans. They had rules and laws. They valued honor and compassion. But when someone crossed certain lines, all of that disappeared. The humans became something else, something ancient and terrifying. Admiral Jin Ho addressed the entire fleet over the ship-wide communication system. His voice echoed through every corridor and cabin. I know you are tired, he said. I know your body's hurt. I know some of you are scared. That is normal. That is human. But I need you to remember why we are doing this. He paused, choosing his words carefully. We come from a world that tried to kill us every single day. Ice ages that should have wiped us out. Diseases that killed millions. Predators that saw us as food. We survived all of it. Not because we were the biggest or strongest, but because we were stubborn. We refused to quit. We protected each other. We stood up to threats that should have destroyed us. His voice grew harder. The Valkyrie never had to do that. Their world was kind to them. They never learned to fight because they never needed to. And now they are paying the price for that peace. The Krethik see them as easy prey, as cargo, as things to be used and discarded. Jinho's hands clenched into fists. We are going to teach the Krethik a lesson. We are going to show them what happens when they attack the innocent. We are going to show them why humans are called Deathworlders, not because we love death, but because we are very, very good at delivering it when we have to. The fleet erupted in cheers. Marines shouted battle cries. Pilots revved their engines. Engineers pushed their machines even harder. In the council chambers, Ambassador Sang-woo listened to 3 different species demand that Earth recall its fleet. He listened politely and then responded with one sentence. No. You are violating council protocols, the Melos representative said. Then remove us from the council, Sang-woo said. We will not watch innocents die while you debate procedure. The Melos representative stared at him. Do you understand what you are doing? You are isolating your species, making enemies, starting conflicts that could last generations. Sang-woo met his gaze. Better to have enemies and keep our honor than have friends and lose our souls. He left the chamber. Behind him, the council dissolved into chaos. Some species called for sanctions against Earth. Others stayed silent, watching and thinking. 3 species quietly sent messages to their ambassadors. Open negotiations with the humans. We may need them someday. The 3rd fleet crossed the final light year to Talvos Prime. Sensors began picking up activity in the system. Lots of ships. Energy signatures from weapons fire. The battle was still going on. Captain Jiwoo stood on her bridge, hands clasped behind her back. Her crew moved around her, preparing for combat. They checked weapon systems, powered up shields, loaded missiles into launch tubes. All ships, this is indomitable, Jiwoo said over the fleet channel. We are entering combat range in 10 minutes. Remember your training, trust your instincts, and show them why you do not mess with Earth. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Talvos system. 73 Krethik warships filled the sensor screens. 3 colony domes burned on the planet's surface. Escape pods drifted in orbit, some intact, most destroyed. Admiral Jin Ho took one look at the scene and gave a single order. Light them up! The alarm rang through the monitoring station at exactly 0300 hours. Lieutenant Nari Song jumped from her bunk and ran to her console. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she pulled up the incoming signal. Her eyes went wide. Commander, we have a distress call. It's coming from outside council space. Commander Tae-jin Kim walked over to her station. He was a tall man with gray hair and tired eyes. 20 years in the service had taught him that late-night distress calls were never good news. He leaned over Nari's shoulder and watched the screen. The message played. It was broken and filled with static, but the fear in the alien voice was clear. This is Talvos Prime Colony. We are under attack. The Krethic came without warning. They are killing us. Please, anyone who can hear this, we need help. Our defense ships are gone. They are landing on the surface now. Please help us. The message repeated. Each time it played, the voice sounded weaker. Tae-jin grabbed the emergency comm. Wake up, Admiral Kim. Tell him we have a code red situation. Within minutes, Admiral Tae-jin's older brother, Fleet Admiral Jin Ho Kim, arrived at the command center. Jin Ho had commanded Earth's 3rd Fleet for 5 years. He was known for making fast decisions and never backing down from a fight. Show me everything, Jin Ho said. Dr. Hee-jin Choi, the station's alien expert, pulled up data on her screen. The Valrine are a peaceful species. They live on low-gravity worlds. They have no military to speak of. The Krethic are pirates and slavers. If they are attacking Talvos Prime, it means they want slaves. The Valrine cannot fight them. Jin Ho watched the distress call play again. The words cut through him like a knife. He had heard calls like this before, back during Earth's unification wars. He knew what happened when help arrived too late. How long to reach them? He asked. Captain Ji-woo Park, commander of the flagship Indomitable, checked her navigation computer. 4 days at maximum burn. Sir, that will push our engines beyond safe limits. Do it, Jin Ho said. Sir, we should inform the Galactic Council first, one of the junior officers said. They have procedures for this kind of situation. Jin Ho turned to look at the young officer. The council will debate for weeks. These people will be dead or enslaved by then. Prepare the fleet for immediate departure. The message went out across Earth's orbital shipyards. Crews scrambled to their ships. Marines loaded equipment. Supply ships rushed to fill cargo holds with ammunition and food. The 3rd Fleet began to move. Ambassador Sang-woo Lee stood in the Galactic Council chamber and watched the other species debate. The Valrine distress call had reached the Council 3 hours ago. Since then, the representatives had done nothing but talk. We must consider the political implications, said the Melos representative, a tall being with blue skin and 6 arms. The Krethic operate in unregulated space. If we send ships there, it could be seen as an act of aggression. The Valrine are not council members, added another representative. We have no legal obligation to assist them. But they are dying, Sang-woo said. His voice was calm but hard. Every minute we waste, more of them die. We understand your concern, Ambassador, the Melos representative said, but we must follow proper procedures. We will form a committee to study the situation. Then, we will vote on whether to authorize a military response. This should take no more than 3 or 4 weeks. Sang-woo felt anger rise in his chest. He had been a soldier before he became a diplomat. He knew what 3 or 4 weeks meant for people under attack. Then humanity will act alone, he said. The chamber went silent. Every species turned to stare at him. You cannot do that, the Melos representative said. Council protocols forbid individual member species from taking military action without authorization. We are not asking for permission, Sang-woo said. We are informing you of what we are doing. The 3rd Fleet is already moving. Chaos erupted in the chamber. Some species shouted in anger. Others demanded that Earth be sanctioned. A few stayed quiet, watching with interest. Sang-woo turned and walked out of the chamber. He had said everything that needed to be said. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Ji-woo watched her crew work. They had been burning toward Talvos Prime for 12 hours. The entire ship shook from the strain of maximum acceleration. Other species could not survive this kind of constant pressure. Their bodies were too weak. But humans had evolved on a heavy gravity world. 3Gs was uncomfortable but manageable. "How are the engines holding up?" Jiwoo asked. Chief Engineer Dong Hyun Bai looked up from his console. His face was covered in sweat. "We are running at 140% capacity. I can keep this up for another 3 days, maybe 4. After that, we will need major repairs." "Keep pushing them," Jiwoo said. "Those people need us." In the Marine Bay, Commander Young Jae Hwang briefed his troops. 3,000 Marines sat in rows, listening to every word. They wore combat armor and carried weapons that would terrify most species in the galaxy. "The Krethik are slavers," Young Jae said. "They take prisoners and sell them. They torture anyone who resists. They have been doing this for hundreds of years because no one stops them. Today, that changes. We are going to show them what happens when they mess with people under human protection." The Marines shouted their approval. Young Jae looked at their faces. Most were young, in their 20s. Some had never seen real combat. But all of them had volunteered for this mission. All of them understood what they were fighting for. Back on Earth, news of the mission spread quickly. People gathered in public squares to watch the news feeds. Some protested, saying humanity should not risk war with the Krethik. Others supported the mission, saying it was the right thing to do. In her small apartment, Lieutenant Minji Kong said goodbye to her family. She was a fighter pilot, one of the best in the fleet. Tomorrow, she would launch from the carrier and fly into combat. "Please be careful," her mother said, hugging her tight. "I will," Minji promised. "But those people need help. Someone has to go." The Valrine distress call played one more time. Then it stopped. The signal went dead. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Jiwoo stared at the silent comm screen. The crew looked at her, waiting for orders. "Did they surrender?" someone asked. "No," Dr. Hyjin said quietly. "Their transmitter was destroyed, or everyone who could operate it is dead." Jiwoo felt cold rage fill her chest. She had joined the military to protect people. She had sworn an oath to defend those who could not defend themselves. The fact that the Valrine were not human did not matter. They had called for help. That was enough. "Increase speed," she ordered. "I do not care if we burn out every engine in the fleet. We are not stopping." The Third Fleet pushed harder. They raced through space toward a world they had never seen, toward people they had never met. They did not know if they would arrive in time. They did not know if the Valrine could be saved. But they knew one thing with absolute certainty. The Krethik would pay for what they had done. War Master Vorthak sat on his command throne and watched his fleet strip the Valrine colony bare. Everything valuable had been loaded into cargo ships. Anything that resisted had been killed. Now his soldiers were gathering the survivors for transport to the slave markets. It had been a good raid. The Valrine had no weapons, no defenses, nothing that could threaten his ships. They had died by the thousands or surrendered even faster. Vorthak had conducted hundreds of raids like this. They were all the same. The weak always lost. His scanner operator suddenly spoke up. "War Master, we have new contacts entering the system. 47 ships. Unknown design." Vorthak barely glanced at the display. "Probably council ships coming to negotiate. Ignore them unless they get close." "Sir, they are not slowing down. They are coming straight at us." Now Vorthak looked. The unknown ships were moving fast, far faster than any council vessel. Their formation was tight and organized. These were not merchant ships or exploration vessels. These were warships. His communication system activated. A human face appeared on the screen. The creature had dark hair and cold eyes. When it spoke, its voice was calm but carried an edge like a blade. "Krethik vessels, this is Communications Officer Nari Song of the Earth Defense Fleet. You have 30 seconds to release all captives and withdraw from this system. This is your only warning." Vorthak laughed. In 200 years of raiding, no one had ever given him an ultimatum. The weak begged, the strong negotiated. But warnings? That was new. He decided to teach these humans a lesson about respect. He ordered his soldiers to drag a Valrine prisoner to the bridge. The small creature trembled as guards forced it to its knees in front of the camera. Vorthok drew his weapon and pointed it at the Valreen's head. "This is what we think of your warning, human." He pulled the trigger. The Valreen collapsed, dead. For a moment, there was silence on the channel. Then the human woman spoke again. Her voice had not changed. It was still calm. But somehow, it was colder than the void of space. Message received. "Admiral Kim, they declined your offer." A different voice came over the channel. "Male. Hard. Final. Weapons free. No mercy." Vorthok barely had time to shout orders before the first missiles struck. They moved impossibly fast, accelerating to speeds that turned them into streaks of light. His defensive systems tried to intercept them, but the missiles had no electronic signatures. They were just chunks of metal moving at incredible velocity. 3 of his cruisers exploded in the first 5 seconds. "Return fire," Vorthok screamed. "All ships, engage the enemy." His fleet turned to face the humans. 73 Krethik ships against 47 human vessels. The numbers favored Vorthok, but numbers did not account for everything. Captain Jiwoo watched the battle unfold from her command chair. Her tactical officer called out targets. Her weapons officer fired as fast as the systems could cycle. Railgun slugs tore through Krethik shields like paper. Nuclear-tipped torpedoes turned enemy ships into balls of plasma. "Target their command vessels first," Jiwoo ordered. "Break their coordination." Human ships moved like hunting wolves. They did not stay at long range like council vessels. They closed to knife-fighting distance and used the chaos to their advantage. Krethik, targeting systems lost lock as human ships wove through debris fields and used destroyed vessels as cover. Lieutenant Minji Kang led her fighter wing into the heart of the enemy formation. Her console screamed warnings as enemy fire filled the space around her. She ignored it all and focused on her target, a Krethik carrier launching small attack craft. "Reaper Squadron, follow my lead. We are taking out that carrier." Her wingmates fell in behind her. They dove toward the massive Krethik ship, dodging defensive fire. At the last second, Minji launched her missiles and pulled up hard. The G-forces crushed her into her seat. Her vision went gray. But her missiles found their mark. The carrier's launch bay exploded. Secondary explosions ripped through the ship's interior. Within seconds, the entire vessel was a burning wreck. "Splash 1 carrier," Minji reported, "moving to next target." War Master Vorthok watched his fleet fall apart. Human weapons were unlike anything he had seen. They ignored shields. They moved faster than his sensors could track. And the humans fought with a ferocity that shocked him. This was not warfare as he understood it. This was slaughter. He tried to pull his ships back, to regroup and form a defensive line, but the humans gave him no time. They pressed their attack, focusing fire on any ship that tried to organize the others. "Send a distress call," Vorthok ordered. "Tell the High Clans we need reinforcements." "Sir, the humans are jamming our long-range communications." Of course they were. These humans understood war. They had cut him off from help and were now methodically destroying his fleet. On the surface of Talvos Prime, Krethik ground forces heard the explosions in orbit. They looked up and saw their ships burning. Some tried to prepare defenses. Most simply stared in confusion. They were used to being the predators. Being prey was a new and terrifying experience. Commander Youngjae Huang stood in the drop bay of his assault ship. Behind him, 3,000 Marines prepared for combat. They checked their weapons, tightened their armor, and waited for the order. 30 seconds to drop, the pilot announced. Youngjae activated his external speakers. "Listen up. The Krethik on the surface are disorganized and scared. They expect us to land in ships and deploy in formation. We are not doing that. We are going in hard and fast. Individual drop pods, maximum aggression. Show them what happens when they touch people under our protection." The bay doors opened. Space yawned below them. Youngjae could see the planet's surface, green and blue, and covered in smoke from burning cities. "Go, go, go!" Marines launched from the ship in individual pods. 73 small metal capsules screamed through the atmosphere. Krethik ground forces watched them come and raised their weapons. The pods hit like meteors. They buried themselves in the ground, cracking pavement and throwing up clouds of dirt. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the pods opened and humans emerged. The Krethik had faced many species in combat. None fought like humans. The armored soldiers moved fast, their weapons spitting fire. They used cover expertly, coordinated their attacks, and showed no fear at all. A group of Krethik soldiers tried to form a defensive line. A Marine threw a grenade over their barrier. The explosion scattered them. Before they could recover, the Marine was on them, weapon blazing. Specialist Kyungmin Ro found a high position in the ruins of a building. She set up her rifle and looked through the scope. Below, Krethik forces were trying to execute a group of Valrine prisoners. Range: 2,847 meters. Wind: minimal. Gravity: 0.87 Earth standard. She adjusted for all of it and placed her crosshairs on the Krethik commander. The alien raised his weapon toward a Valrine child. Kyungmin's finger tightened on the trigger. The rifle kicked. The bullet traveled for 3.2 seconds. The Krethik commander's head exploded. Kyungmin did not celebrate. She simply marked the kill in her log and moved her aim to the next target. By the time the Krethik realized they were being hunted, she had eliminated 23 of their officers. In orbit, War Master Vorthak made a desperate decision. If he was going to die, he would take as many enemies with him as possible. He ordered his flagship to ram one of the colony domes. At full speed, his ship could destroy the dome and kill every Valrine inside. Captain Jiwoo saw his move instantly. Helm, intercept course, maximum speed, weapons, prepare railgun barrage. The Indomitable surged forward, placing itself between the Krethik flagship and the planet. Jiwoo waited until the last possible moment. Then she gave the order. Fire! The ship's main railgun opened up. Slug after slug hammered into the Krethik vessel. Shields collapsed, armor shattered. The enemy ship broke in half, both sections spinning away into space. War Master Vorthak died without ever understanding what had happened. His species had raided and enslaved for centuries. They had always won because their enemies were weak. But humans were not weak, and they did not forgive. The battle lasted 4 hours and 17 minutes. When it ended, 73 Krethik ships were destroyed or disabled. Not one escaped. The human fleet had 3 damaged vessels and 0 destroyed. Admiral Jin Ho stood on his bridge and looked at the casualty reports. 83 human dead. 219 wounded. It hurt to lose anyone. But they had saved hundreds of thousands of Valrine lives. All ships, this is Admiral Kim, ceasefire. Begin search and rescue operations. Find every Valrine survivor and get them medical attention. I want medical teams on the surface in 10 minutes. He looked at the burning wreckage filling his screens. The Krethik had learned a hard lesson today. The galaxy was changing. The old predators were about to meet a new apex species, and humans did not forgive those who hurt the innocent. On the surface, Commander Young Jae found a group of Valrine hiding in a collapsed building. They cowered as his Marines approached, terrified of the armored soldiers. Young Jae removed his helmet. His face was scarred and tired, but he smiled at the frightened aliens. "It is okay," he said in broken Valrine language. "We are friends. The bad ones are gone. You are safe now." One of the Valrine, an elder with silver fur, stared at him. "You came. We called for help and you came." Young Jae nodded. "Yes, we came. And we will stay until you are safe." The elder began to cry. The other Valrine joined in, their alien voices mixing in sounds of relief and grief and hope. Young Jae helped them out of the ruins and into the light. The colony of Talvos Prime looked like a nightmare. Buildings lay in ruins. Fires burned across 3 continents. Bodies filled the streets, both Krethik and Valrine. Smoke darkened the sky. Human medical teams moved through the wreckage, searching for survivors. They worked quickly and efficiently, treating injuries and evacuating the wounded to hospital ships in orbit. Dr. Haijin Choi coordinated the effort from a temporary command center. We have found approximately 200,000 survivors so far, she reported to Admiral Jin Ho. Most are traumatized. Many have injuries. All of them are terrified. Jin Ho nodded grimly. Keep searching. If there's even one more survivor out there, I want them found. Coordinator Sora Yoon arrived on the surface with a team of humanitarian workers. She had experience with refugee situations, but nothing prepared her for this. The Valrine were so fragile, so broken. Many could not even speak. They just stared with empty eyes. One group of survivors watched human Marines move past carrying heavy equipment. The humans were still in full combat armor, weapons ready. To the Valrine, they looked like machines of war. Unstoppable, terrifying. A young Valrine child started crying. Its parent tried to comfort it, but the child pointed at the Marines and sobbed. Sora walked over to the Marines. Remove your helmets, she ordered. You are scaring them. The Marines looked at each other and then obeyed. Without their helmets, they were just people. Young men and women with tired faces and kind eyes. One Marine knelt down to the child's level and smiled. Hey there, the Marine said softly. My name is Private Han Sol. I know we look scary, but we are the good guys, okay? We came to help. The child stared at Han Sol for a long moment. Then slowly, carefully, it reached out and touched his face. Han Sol stayed very still, letting the child examine him. Finally, the child seemed satisfied and stopped crying. News of the battle spread across the galaxy faster than light. War correspondent Jae Sung Park had recorded everything. His footage showed human ships tearing through the Krethic fleet, Marines landing in drop pods, soldiers carrying wounded Valrine to safety. The images were broadcast on every major news network. Trillions of beings across hundreds of worlds watched humans wage war. Some were impressed, many were terrified. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. Counselor Theron of the Melos Aggregate stood before the assembly and demanded answers. The humans acted without authorization. They deployed military force in violation of Council protocols. They used weapons banned by galactic law. They killed thousands of Krethic without accepting surrender. This cannot be allowed to stand. Ambassador Sang-woo listened patiently. When Theron finished, Sang-woo stood and faced the council. You had your protocols, he said. The Valrine had corpses piling up in their streets. We had the ability to act. So we did. You had no right, Theron shouted. The council makes these decisions, not individual species. Then the council should make faster decisions, Sang-woo replied. How long did you debate? 3 hours? 4? In that time, how many Valrine died? How many were enslaved? While you sat in comfortable chairs and discussed procedures, innocent people suffered. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Sang-woo's words struck deep. The Krethic are criminals, another counselor said. They should have been arrested and tried according to galactic law. They were slavers and murderers, Sang-woo said. They killed a prisoner on an open channel to taunt us. They were executing civilians when our Marines landed. We gave them a chance to surrender. They chose to fight. They died. The debate went on for hours. Some species called for sanctions against Earth. Others stayed silent. A few began to wonder if the humans were right. Counselor Theron demanded a vote on sanctions. Before it could happen, something unexpected occurred. The Valrine government, what remained of it, sent a representative to the council. Elder Mirel entered the chamber slowly. She was old and injured, one arm in a sling. But she held her head high as she approached the speaking platform. I am Elder Mirel of the Valrine Council, she said. I speak for my people. We asked for help. The council debated. The humans acted. Because of them, 200,000 of my people are alive today. Without them, we would all be dead or enslaved. She turned to look directly at Counselor Theron. You speak of protocols and procedures. I speak of children torn from their parents' arms. I speak of cities burning while we waited for help that never came. Until the humans arrived. Her voice grew stronger. We did not know humans before this. We did not know what they were capable of. But now we do. They crossed the galaxy in days. They fought against impossible odds. They won. And when the battle ended, they did not conquer us. They helped us. They gave us food, medicine, protection. They asked for nothing in return. Tears rolled down her face. You want to punish them? Then punish us too. Because we are grateful they came. We are grateful they ignored your rules. We are grateful that someone in this galaxy has the courage to protect the weak. The council chamber went silent. Counselor Theron had no response. The vote on sanctions was postponed indefinitely. In his office, Admiral Jin Ho reviewed intelligence reports. They painted a disturbing picture. Across the galaxy, there were 14 other distress signals similar to the Valrines. Species under attack. Colonies being raided. Calls for help going unanswered because they came from non-council worlds. We cannot save them all, Captain Jiwoo said. She stood beside his desk, reading the reports over his shoulder. No, Jinho agreed. But we can try. And maybe if we make enough noise, others will start helping too. He pulled up a star chart. Send the first and second fleets to these locations. Tell Admiral Yoonji to prioritize the situations with the highest casualty rates. We will make a difference where we can. Jiwoo nodded and left to give the orders. Jinho sat alone in his office, feeling the weight of command. Every decision he made would affect millions of lives. Some he would save, some he would lose. That was the burden of power. Back on Earth, public opinion was divided. Some people celebrated the victory. Others protested that humanity should not be the galaxy's police force. Politicians debated. News shows argued. The planet had never been so focused on what was happening beyond their solar system. In a small house in Seoul, Lieutenant Minji's mother watched footage of her daughter's fighter wing destroying the Krithik carrier. She cried, not from sadness, but from pride and fear. Her daughter was a hero. Her daughter was also flying into battles that could kill her at any moment. 3 species from the Galactic Council sent secret messages to Earth. They requested meetings to discuss mutual defense agreements. They had seen what humans could do. They wanted that strength protecting them if trouble came. Ambassador Sang-woo read the messages and smiled. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone expected. Deep in Krethik territory, the High Clans received reports of the disaster at Talvos Prime. An entire fleet destroyed. War Master Vorthak dead. And the enemy? Humans. A species that had only joined the galactic community 50 years ago. High Clan Master Krivoth read the reports 3 times. He could not believe them. His species had dominated the outer reaches for centuries. No one challenged the Krethik. No one dared. These humans must be taught a lesson, Krivoth said. If we allow this insult to stand, we will appear weak. Other species will think they can defy us. His advisors agreed. Plans were made. Ships were assembled. The Krethik would strike back, not just to avenge Vorthak, but to prove their dominance. They chose their target carefully. New Seoul, a human colony world with 400,000 civilians. Lightly defended. Perfect for sending a message. On Talvos Prime, Elder Morel approached Admiral Jin Ho as he toured the reconstruction efforts. She moved slowly, still weak from her injuries. Admiral, I want to thank you again. My people owe you everything. Jin Ho shook his head. You owe us nothing. We did what anyone should do when they hear a call for help. But not everyone does, Morel said. We called the council. They did not come. We called you. You came immediately. Why? Jin Ho was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. My world was not kind to us, he finally said. We fought for everything we have. We survived because we learned to protect each other. When we hear someone crying for help, we cannot ignore it. It goes against everything we are. Morel touched his hand with her small, fragile fingers. Then I pray your species never loses that quality. The galaxy needs people like you. Jinho watched her walk away. He hoped she was right. He hoped humanity could remain the protectors, the ones who answered distress calls and fought for the innocent. But deep down, he knew war was coming. The Krethik would not forget what happened here. They would strike back. And when they did, humanity would have to prove that their victory at Talvos Prime was not luck. They would have to show the galaxy that Earth was not just another member of the Council. They were something new, something dangerous. something that stood between the predators and their prey, and they would not back down. The intelligence report arrived at Earth Defense Command at 0400 hours. Admiral Jin Ho read it twice to make sure he understood correctly. Then he activated the emergency protocols. The Krethik are assembling a revenge fleet, he told his senior staff. 300 ships, the largest armada they have fielded in over a century. Their target is New Seoul. Captain Jiwoo pulled up data on the colony. 400,000 civilians, mining operations, agricultural centers, light defenses. They chose it because it is vulnerable. How long until they arrive? Jin-ho asked. 3 weeks, maybe 4. Jin-ho activated the communication system. Get me Admiral Yoonji Baek. I want the first fleet mobilized immediately. And someone wake up Colonel Dae-hyun Shin. I have a special mission for his team. The Galactic Council offered to mediate. Ambassador Sang-woo listened to their proposal and then declined. You want us to negotiate with slavers? Sang-woo asked. You want us to discuss terms with people who murder children for entertainment? We are trying to prevent a larger war, Counselor Theron said. Then prevent it by helping us stop them, Sang-woo replied, or stay out of our way. He closed the channel. Earth would handle this alone if necessary. Colonel Dae-hyun Shin assembled his special operations team in a secure briefing room. 12 of the best soldiers in the human military. Silent. Deadly. Experts at missions no one was supposed to know about. Our job is intelligence gathering, Dae-hyun explained. The Krethik High clans are organizing this attack. We need to know where their leadership is located. We need to know where their civilians live, where their shipyards are, where everything important is. Are we hitting those targets? One soldier asked. No, Dae-hyun said. Not yet. But if the Krethik want to threaten our civilians, they need to understand what reciprocity means. If they understand that we know where their families are, maybe they will think twice. The team launched in stealth ships and disappeared into deep space. On New Seoul, people heard the news and prepared. The colony governor called for evacuation, but most citizens refused to leave. This was their home. They would defend it. 50,000 military reservists activated and reported for duty. They were miners, farmers, teachers, and engineers in peacetime. But all of them had served in the military. All of them remembered their training. Weapons were distributed. Defensive positions were established. The colony transformed from a peaceful settlement into a fortress. Admiral Yoonji Baek arrived with the first fleet and immediately began preparing defenses. She was a short woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. 300 Krethik ships, she said to her staff. We have 31 defenders. We cannot win a straight fight. So we do not fight straight, her tactical officer suggested. Yoonji smiled. Exactly. We make them bleed for every meter. We buy time for reinforcements, and we make sure they remember New Seoul forever. High Clan Master Krivoth led his fleet personally. He wanted to see the human colony burn. He wanted to make an example that the entire galaxy would remember. When we arrive, surround the planet, Krivoth ordered. Cut off all escape routes. Then we begin orbital bombardment. Level their cities. Show them what happens when you challenge the Krethik. His second-in-command hesitated. Master, the humans at Talvos Prime fought with unexpected strength. Should we be cautious? Krivoth laughed. They had surprise and desperation. We have numbers and power. 300 ships against 30. The outcome is certain. The Krethik fleet arrived at New Seoul exactly on schedule. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a perfect formation. Krivoth looked at the sensor screens and smiled. Only 31 human ships waited for them. Then, Admiral Yoonji's voice came over the communication channel. Krethik fleet, you have made a mistake coming here. You attack civilians because you fear soldiers. You prey on the weak because you cannot defeat the strong. Let me show you why your species should fear Earth. Krivoth opened his mouth to respond, but Yoonji cut the channel. Then hell broke loose. The human defense fleet did not try to win. They tried to survive. Every ship moved at maximum speed, using the planet's gravity well for acceleration. They fired everything they had, and then ran, forcing the Krethek to chase them. Lieutenant Minji led her fighter wing in a suicidal attack. They flew straight into the Krethek formation, drawing fire and attention. Missiles filled the space around them. 3 fighters exploded. Minji kept flying. Her target was a Krethek dreadnought, massive and powerful. She used her fighter's small size to slip past its defenses. Then she flew directly into the ship's engine exhaust. The turbulence should have torn her fighter apart. But Minji held the controls steady, fighting against forces that tried to rip her craft to pieces. She armed her last nuclear missile and released it inside the engine cone. The explosion chain reacted through the dreadnought's power systems. The massive ship broke apart, pieces crashing into nearby Krethek vessels. Minji pulled up hard, her fighter smoking and damaged. "Splash 1 dreadnought," she reported. Then her engine failed and she had to eject. On the ground, the Krethek landed their troops. They expected the colonists to surrender or flee. Instead, they found 50,000 armed humans waiting in prepared positions. A Krethek squad advanced on a farming community. They expected easy targets. What they found was 100 farmers with rifles who knew every tree and rock. The Krethek squad did not survive the ambush. Across the colony, similar scenes played out. Humans used their knowledge of the terrain. They set traps. They ambushed patrols. They made the Krethek pay for every building taken. Commander Youngjae landed with his Marines and immediately linked up with local defenders. Together, they formed a defensive line around the main population centers. "Remember," Youngjae told his troops, "we are not here to win. We are here to hold until help arrives. Every minute we survive is a minute for our families to live." Specialist Kyung Min found a position on top of a grain silo. From there, she could see most of the battlefield. She settled in and began picking targets. Krethek officers, communication specialists, anyone coordinating the enemy forces. Her rifle spoke again and again. Each shot was perfect. Each shot dropped a target. After 2 hours, the Krethek ground forces were in chaos. No one wanted to be the next commander killed by the invisible sniper. In orbit, the human defense fleet was dying. Admiral Yoon-ji's flagship took a direct hit. Her shields collapsed. Hull breaches opened across 3 decks. "All hands, prepare for—" Her words were cut off as another explosion ripped through the ship. But she had done her job. She had held the Krethek for 6 hours. And now, help arrived. Earth's 2nd and 3rd fleets dropped out of FTL at point-blank range. 94 fresh warships appeared behind the Krethek fleet. Admiral Jin Ho led the charge personally. "All ships, weapons free. Show them why you do not threaten Earth." The Krethek found themselves caught between 2 human forces. Behind them, the battered defenders they thought they had beaten. In front of them, a fresh fleet with full ammunition and shields. High Clan Master Krevoth realized his mistake too late. The humans had used New Soul as bait. They had sacrificed their own people to draw the Krethek into a trap. "Retreat," he ordered. "All ships, emergency jump." But human ships blocked the escape routes. And Admiral Jin Ho was in no mood to let them go. The battle turned into a massacre. Krethek ships tried to flee and were hunted down. Those that tried to fight were overwhelmed. Krevoth's flagship was disabled by a combined strike from 3 human cruisers. Commander Youngjae led a boarding team onto the flagship. They fought through the corridors, clearing each section. They found evidence of the Krethek's other crimes. Torture chambers, slave holds, records of raids going back decades. Youngjae stood on the bridge and looked at Krevoth. The Krethek leader was injured, bleeding from multiple wounds. "Your people surrender?" Youngjae asked. "We do not surrender," Krevoth spat. "We are Krethek. We are strong." "You were strong," Youngjae corrected. Past tense. He opened a channel to Admiral Jin Ho. "Sir, we have the flagship secure. The Krethek refused to surrender, requesting orders." Jin Ho's voice was cold. "Execute war crimes protocols, document everything, then scuttle the ship." The channel was open. The entire galaxy heard the order. Youngjae nodded. His team methodically went through the ship, recording evidence of every crime. Then they set charges and evacuated. The flagship broke apart in a ball of fire. The Battle of New Sol ended with complete human victory. 300 Krethic ships destroyed. Human casualties were heavy, 6,700 civilians dead, 3,200 military personnel killed. But New Sol survived. Deep in space, Colonel Dae-hyun completed his mission. His team had mapped every important Krethic location. He transmitted the data to the Krethic High Clans along with a simple message. "We know where you live. We know where your families are. We have chosen not to attack them because we are not like you. But if you ever threaten human civilians again, we will show you what total war means. We will burn your worlds. We will hunt your leaders. We will end your species. This is not a threat. This is a promise. Stay away from us." The Krethic High Clans received the message. For the first time in their civilization's history, they understood true fear. 6 months later, pirate activity across the galaxy had dropped by 73%. Not because of council action, because the word had spread. Humans answered distress calls, and they showed no mercy to slavers and raiders. 12 species requested human protection. The Valrine were granted emergency council membership, sponsored by Earth. 3 major council species signed mutual defense pacts with humanity. The galaxy had changed. Power no longer meant just technology or economics. It meant the willingness to fight for those who could not fight for themselves. Admiral Jin Ho stood in the memorial gardens at New Sol, looking at the names of the fallen. Captain Jiwoo joined him. "Was it worth it?" she asked quietly. "All the death?" Jin Ho thought about the Valrine, rebuilding their world. He thought about the other species now traveling safely through space. He thought about the children playing in parks that had been battlefields. "Ask them," he said. In the distance, a trade ship lifted off. It came from a species that had been raided for generations. Now they traveled freely under human protection. Earth had not asked to be the galaxy's defender. But in a universe full of predators, someone had to stand up for the prey. Someone had to draw a line and say, "No more." Humanity had drawn that line. And they had written it in fire and blood. The message was clear to every slaver, pirate, and raider in the galaxy. There were no negotiations, no second chances, no mercy for those who hurt the innocent. The predators had learned to fear the humans, and the galaxy was safer for it. On Earth, in a quiet apartment, Lieutenant Minji recovered from her injuries. Her mother sat beside her bed, holding her hand. "I am proud of you," her mother said. "You saved so many people." Minji smiled weakly. "Someone had to. When people call for help, we answer. That is who we are." Outside the window, ships moved through Earth's orbit. Patrol vessels, defense platforms, humanitarian ships heading to colonies that needed supplies. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were not just another species. They were something unique, something dangerous when provoked, something compassionate when given the chance. They were Deathworlders, and they had come to the stars not to conquer, but to protect. The weak could sleep safely, because humanity was watching. And they would answer every distress call, every time, without hesitation. Without mercy for the guilty, without limits for the innocent.